What is going on? That was cool, Rob. Rob, put yourself in. We want to see Iggy. You can keep yourself muted. All right, here we go. Iggy's making an appearance. I want Iggy on screen. That's my little boy. He's being shy today. He's a little sad today. So, but yeah, this is no wait. I hear Max saying something. You who come to me yeah, because Mac wants to talk. Oh, we got bad intro music if you want it, Mac. Listen, I'm always prepared to throw in one of my favorites.
One bread, one body.
I was gonna do.
Please, it will be stuck in my head for like.
I was gonna do that. That or Gather Us In. Gather Us In's my favorite. Gather Us In. You can't.
What about We Are Many Parts?
I haven't heard that one.
We are many parts, but we're all one body. You don't?
I've never heard that.
That must be a Midwestern one. I don't know.
I thought I knew one more.
So next show, Angela's gonna have to play that for everybody on the intro.
We had a guest a couple of shows back, and she writes Catholic fiction, and one of her books was called. It took place in the 1960s, and the title was called Anything But Groovy. And I thought that would be a great title for like a history of the Gather hymnal. Anything But Groovy, a history of the Gather hymnal. And I thought, oh man, that's too bad because that would have been great.
Yeah, I have like a real nostalgia for those songs though, man. Like I actually, they're like, you know, a guilty pleasure. Like if nobody's around and that accidentally came on, I wouldn't turn it off. I mean, I'll rock out to this a little bit.
Breaking news, Anthony is a modernist and he just came out.
Yeah.
Came out of the modernist closet. And that was the news for tonight. That was it.
So
that's it.
Well, the intro should definitely spark everyone's interest because Rob and I have that. What is that? Dies Irae or
right? The Dies Irae. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our usual intro, and then this new graphic popped in. So what's really going on behind the scenes is all of us are speaking behind the scenes, and we are talking about how can we collaborate together. We all kind of have a very similar idea of where we want our show to go, and we figured we would be a good group to get together. And what we're talking about is just maybe getting a website together where it's like a one point where everything can, you know, a one-stop shop for everybody if they wanted to go to a website and maybe find all of the shows. And I honestly would love to extend this invite to Connor McHugh, who comes on the trivia show with us, because he's kind of similar. So what we were saying today was that all of us kind of want to stay away from the clickbait drama of the church, right? That's a fair assessment. All of us were kind of saying that.
Definitely.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah. So, and that's not to criticize anybody that is doing that. We just think that genre is fulfilled and people do it better than any of us can. So we're trying to do something a little bit different, and we want to try to bring hope and joy into an arena where there's so much tension and right.
And I think the people in this group all have they all bring a unique perspective to what we're doing here. I mean, like I will tell you my experience in the pro-life movement. Obviously we echo the pro-life message on our show. We make no apology about that, but it's sort of limited just what I think I've done in the Knights of Columbus, and that's about it. Angela has been in the apostolate for a minute and knows it a lot better than a lot of us. So, and then Anthony has the trivia show that is kind of a unique thing that he does and stuff like that. We've got our kind of, and so there's all these different niches that I think come together with this group. And we thought this would be a cool collaboration to promote each other's content and maybe create a clearinghouse for people who like all of our different shows to come and, you know,
it's a way for us to introduce each other to each other's audiences. I mean, listen, we're all pretty small shows. So to try to build that audience up, you try to share each other's small audience with each other, and we're trying to bring something a little bit unique, a little bit different. And I think that was basically, you know, we were talking about like what is what is it that we are looking to do? Because without discussing anybody else, because this is not about criticizing what anybody else does. I think everybody in the church right now is struggling to make sense of things. Yeah. Everybody, right? So it's like everybody has to figure out a way to make sense of what's going on. We're all living under these insane, unjust rulers, basically, and it's like we're all just trying to figure out, how does this work? What do we do? So some people, personally, I'm a high school dropout, so I don't feel equipped to go in and discuss a deep theological topic. If the Pope is in heresy, things like that are just so out of my league. I just kind of see myself as just a Catholic guy who loves his faith and just likes to share it and talk to people about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really what the church is, not the popes and the cardinals. And I think we kind of we get a little too deep into the internal politics of the Vatican. And I don't know how to break it to everybody, but the Vatican has always been a pit of vipers, always. Like, go look at the Middle Ages. It's always been like that. It's, there's an old saying that whenever a parish is built, Satan sets up a chapel right next door, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were Satan, where would you spend all of your time? That's where I'd spend all my time, at the Vatican, right? Yeah. And but I honestly feel like what we're doing, and what I think you guys are doing that's interesting, is we focus on the apostolate. What are lay people doing? And to the extent that clergy and religious are doing that work too, what are they doing? Yeah. I'm really not that interested in what cardinal got appointed to what dicastery and how intriguing that is. And it just,
the word's dicastery, right?
It's not dicastery?
No, it's dicastery. So we thought you were joking in the group text earlier. We thought you were making a joke.
I've always heard it called dicastery.
It's a dicastery. So what's up, Enoch? So I thought you were making like a
off on Mark over here.
Is it too late to pass it off like I was making a joke?
Yeah, no. We'll just play it. Listen, we are the epitome of screwing up on air. Don't worry, I just dropped my phone. I made a funny face and it fell too. So Rob's hiding over there because I think Iggy's a little cranky tonight. So there he is. Iggy's a little cranky, right, Rob? I think Rob's anniversary is tomorrow. 5 years for him.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Come on, boy.
He keeps popping
Love
up for
it.
a second.
Love it.
Oh god.
So his anniversary is on the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. That's awesome.
That's
it's also Don, my friend Don, and my friend Don Matthews and his wife's anniversary tomorrow too. My wife and I are July 10th, and we're 17 years this year. And Angela, how long have you been married to that football player?
Don't tell my husband about him.
Don't tell my husband about him.
So we've been married. It'll be 9 years in October. I was 21 when we got married. So.
Yeah, I was 22.
That's awesome.
I'm married.
You gonna ask me or Mark about our lineman?
No.
That's right. I just got lost in my train of thought. So Angela's husband is an electrician, right?
Not an electrician. He is a lineman. So he works on power lines. He doesn't go in and deal with the electricity in homes and buildings. He's focused on putting power lines. He's actually a relief foreman doing underground lines right now.
So when Angela told me her husband was a lineman, I assumed it was a football. I'm like, what team does he play for? And she's like, I hear that quite often.
Yeah.
He would have been the guy 20 years ago, back when people were having cable. He would have been the guy you would have paid to get your free cable, right? So can
you actually see the basket of dirty laundry? It probably is. I couldn't see. That's a couch. No, the laundry's right here. I'm in the basement, so there's definitely laundry down here.
It looks like it's right behind you.
It's right behind you, Anthony.
Oh my god, it is right there. Let's see what she's washing on me. There you go.
I can't.
Right.
Super professional.
Man.
Listen, I am relegated to the corner of my basement. The washroom is right here. This is what I get. There's no man cave in my house. I'm lucky I have enough bedrooms for the kids.
What are your thoughts on the man cave? Is like such a controversial thing. Do you think people who have man caves are like man children, or does
I think every man should have an area of his garage where he does like projects and stuff, but like when they go too overboard with the I have a man, I think it's a strange thing. Like your home should be your castle, I guess, but women do tend to take over everything. So I understand the desire to have like a little space yourself if you want to have an office or something, you know.
Wow.
Do you remember? I don't know if I'm the only one that watched it back in the day, but do you remember Al Bundy? He was, instead of creating a man cave, he created his own toilet bathroom in his house.
I never watched Married with Children. I'm sure it fits though. Well, but wait, you look at Angela's background. Do you think her husband designed that background?
No.
I do have a beer sign.
Okay, so you allowed him this much input into the decor of the home.
He's not interested. If it was up to him, our house would have nothing in it or on any walls.
Yep.
My house looks like a Pinterest, like my daughter's friends come over and they're like, this looks like it should be like a Pinterest house. My wife she's an artist. On top of that, she has these things called throw blankets that they look messy on purpose, and I can't. I'm like, the house looks upside down because of these stupid blankets, and she's like, no, it's a lived-in look. It's supposed to look like that, and it drives me nuts. So, all I want to do is fold the blankets.
So years ago, we bought a new bed and new covers and sheets and all that, right? Well, my wife was like, I'm gonna order a duvet. I'm like, okay, cool. It was like $250 or something like that, right? All of a sudden, I see a package come in and it's like this big, folded up. I'm like, what's this? She goes, that's the duvet. I'm like, how is this going to keep us warm?
What's a duvet? Is that
what's a duvet? It's a bedspread.
Yeah, it's a bedspread. So then I said,
that was the thing on the toilet. That's
no. So this will answer your question. So she goes, oh, you have to buy something else to put in the duvet. And I was like, wait. So we couldn't just buy a comforter for $250. We had to buy a duvet for $250 and then like a filler for $250.
No, so like, the duvet is the filler. You get a duvet cover. That's the
duvet
thing that
cover.
goes on the outside.
So wait, what's the thing next to the toilet that they use in Europe that washes everything?
It's a bidet.
A bidet. Oh, okay. I don't know.
It's a dicastry. That's what it's called.
Yeah, it's a dickistry. A bidet.
There was another word that Jason was trying to figure out on your guys' last show, I think.
Yeah. That's every show.
Words are hard.
That's every show. I'm trying to figure out a word.
Angela, what state are you in?
I'm in Minnesota.
Minnesota too. You guys are all no. You're in. You guys are in Texas. Rob's in Minnesota. Yeah.
You got to say it like a Minnesotan. Minnesota.
Every once in a while, Rob and Jake will go full Fargo on me, and I don't understand a word they're saying. I have no idea what's going on.
Fargo's not even in Minnesota.
It's
Are
North Dakota.
either you or your husband University of Minnesota graduates or fans?
I almost went to the University of Minnesota. I ended up going to St. Cloud State instead. That's the party school.
Okay. Because I'm an Iowa Hawkeye. Go Hawks.
So real quick,
look at the comments over.
No, I know they're all it's vocabulary naive.
Right above it. Look at
throw blankets, duvets. Okay, listen to me. It's a change from cats, but we have to stay on. Us. We got to stay
on
theme.
On theme.
On theme. There you go. Theme.
I'm here to help with the words.
All right. So listen. Rob and I interviewed my sister last night, and my mom watched the interview last night. Oh, and my mom calls me this morning and she goes, Anthony, I just have to tell you that Rob, you have to keep him as a friend because some people, when they learn to accept you for all your imperfections and they still love you, that's somebody you want to hold on to in your life and keep around. And that was my mother's way of saying, Anthony, you're a jerk. And Rob still likes you, so make sure you don't screw it up.
Rob, you're muted. I always wanted.
Rob, you're muted.
She does know you're married, right? Like you and I aren't getting married.
No. But my wife won't talk to me for weeks at a time because she doesn't forgive me as easily as you. Apparently, I don't know.
So hard.
So, Rob, what do we, are you able to tell us stories Hope's driving story, or is it too noisy over there?
No, I should be able to. So Sunday we drove the 2 hours to Mass and Duluth, and then we drove the 2 hours back.
Iggy. He can't hear me,
This is
right?
Maddie.
Oh, that's Maddie? No, Maddie's bigger than that. I look like Iggy. All right, go ahead.
So we decided to take the long way back along the north shore of Lake Superior. Really, beautiful drive. You got hills on the left side, the lake on the right. It's like driving along the ocean, basically.
Mhm.
But I was pretty tired because in hopes making the cut my head off.
Now, before you finish the story, I'm seeing where this is going. I now have 2 men that I do a podcast with that allow their wives to drive while they nap. I think that's where we're going with this, right? That you guys like to nap and let your wives drive. I just want to see where this is going.
I was up a lot of the night with Maddie the night before, so yes, I was tired. I let Hope drive, and we took the long way, which is she's not used to driving. So I told her, don't take the left where you normally do, keep going. She said, okay. She didn't ask where to turn. I didn't tell her where to turn. And anyways,
you guys do know what GPS is. It's 2022, right?
Yeah. Well, regardless, I was asleep during the point she should have turned. I woke up about 15, 20 minutes later, realized we were still next to the lake, and that we had to backtrack about half an hour. So
Yeah, on your way to Canada.
if I had slept another hour, we would
you were going across the border. There was going to be a Super Troopers incident.
right. She would have woken me up as we were in line to go through customs, whatever.
Rob, where's our passport? What do you mean? We don't need a passport to go home. Rob told me he wanted to tell that story on here because he knows I like to goof on girls.
And Angela, just in case you're not familiar with it, women driving is exactly how me and Anthony have come in contact with each other, and I've never talked about women driving as much because Anthony had made a comment, right? And I said, dude, I nap all the time while my wife drives.
It's a suicide mission.
And it went back and forth from there.
You're either looking to die or to go to Canada. One or the other.
One or the other. Yeah, for sure.
I know which one I would prefer.
No, I had a similar story years ago. When we lived in Wyoming, we were coming to visit family in Texas, and we had GPS. And I went to sleep, and she missed a turnoff, and I think we went 2 hours south of where we were supposed to go in New Mexico. So then we had to jump over and go, but almost Mexico, I guess.
So women driving is always a risk. I mean, we just have to understand it's a risk we take.
Right.
There's some risks that we want to take.
She's more aggressive than I am, actually. But funny thing is, when I'm behind the wheel, she will get on me for not obeying every traffic. If I'm a mile over the speed limit, why am I going so fast? Do you see that stop sign up there? The stop sign's like a mile and a half. Do you see the stop sign? Don't forget to turn left. You're not in the left-hand lane. You know you're turning left in 2 miles, right? It's like,
wait a minute.
And
my wife does the exact same thing.
And then she gets in the car and
she's a lunatic.
Yeah.
I love you, honey, if you're watching.
Angela, how about you? Do you nitpick your husband's driving?
No, not very often. I mean, there are times when I want to, but I don't. Especially when I feel like he's driving too close to the vehicle in front of us. But otherwise, actually, I'm a better driver in the city. So that's the only time I get on his case is because he does not know how to drive in the cities. And he is notorious for missing exits. Even with the GPS on, I don't know what's going on in his brain, but he'll totally miss exits. And of course, when you miss an exit in the cities, it takes an hour to get back to where you need to get. So that's the only time I'm on him. But
I guess I'm the only one that married a bad driver. I don't know. I mean,
I'm not a great driver.
She can't get in my house without hitting the garage door. So I don't know. So should we talk Catholic stuff or should we keep on, going down this route?
So what specific? So let me ask you this. in the midst of all this stuff that goes on in the church, and there's no shortage of negative news and negative, things that go out. What are some things that because I'm always trying to find out what are some things people do to just stay positive and like stay focused and not go down the rabbit hole, because like when yeah
It might be.
We're going to dabble in Catholicism. I think it's going to be a gossip show, and we're going to dabble in Catholicism. I think that's the idea here.
There you go.
As long as it's not Catholic gossip.
No, yeah. We're staying away from that. Well, I would say we do the trivia show to stay a little bit positive, because making fun of it. I think community is the hugest part of that, man. I think if you don't have other fellow Catholics that you're in community with, it's very difficult to live your faith solo.
Yeah. I used to get really easily scandalized, though, like in the John Paul II days, because we were so into looking at, trying to promote these heroes of the faith, and some of them turned out to not be such big heroes of the faith, unfortunately.
How long have you taken your faith seriously, Mark?
I came to the faith at about 16 years old.
You were born Catholic, though, right?
I was born Catholic, but I didn't understand like what was different about Catholic. I just thought it was another denomination of Christianity. I didn't really understand. And then I went to the seminary for right out of high school, and I was totally disillusioned by my seminary experience. I went to the Legion of Christ. That'll tell you everything you need to know, right?
Yeah.
When I got out, I was I thought holiness is a scam. It's just something that they use to so they can get over on us and fleece us or whatever, and wanted nothing to do with the church for years. I mean, probably maybe in a decade or so, until I met my wife. And when I met her, we started dating. Neither one of us were practicing. And then
how old were you at this time?
26. That sounds about right. Yeah, I think so. It was right around the time, like, we got serious about the faith when John Paul II died.
Yeah.
And
around the same time I did.
Something about that moment and the coverage of it, and it was in all the news and everything, it brought me back. And I don't really understand quite how, but it did. And we started taking our faith seriously, and we ended up getting married in the traditional Latin Mass, and we've been Catholic ever since, by the grace of God. But I really had to recalibrate why am I making these people my model of holiness when Christ is supposed to be my model of holiness? And if you're making anybody other than Christ your model of holiness, like, you're setting yourself up for disillusionment big time, man.
Well, I think I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob. I always jump in.
Even the saints are only models of holiness as reflections of Christ.
Right, to the extent they reflect Christ. That's right. Yeah. And
I think it was especially for us who can, like, for me, I converted end of John Paul and beginning of Benedict. And Benedict, before you knew what was really going on, Benedict was a theological powerhouse to me. I mean, this guy, I didn't know enough to know the real problems at this time. So I'm hearing, like, I didn't even know about the Quran kissing. I didn't know about the Assisi meetings. None of that even was on my radar. And I'm just seeing this Pope Benedict come out, and one thing after another were just so solid to me that, for me, I didn't get shocked out of that until this pontificate. And I guess that happened a little earlier for you, but for me, it wasn't until, really, I left the faith in the early Francis days because I was so discouraged and beaten down that I actually couldn't mentally handle what my perception was from going from Benedict, and the Pope is like, I had a very, what's the word they say for when the Pope is
papolatry.
Papolatry, but they also like the Montanism. Yeah, I was like an ultra Montanist. Yeah. I had it in my head that the Pope was infallible, and I didn't think that. I would tell you that it was only when he was speaking ex cathedra, but I really thought the Pope would never say something publicly that would go against the faith. So when we started getting some of those airplane interviews, it was a total shock for me. I stopped going to Mass. I lost my faith for a little while. And then it took some regrounding and realizing I wasn't the only one seeing it, and other Catholics saying, hey, you're not crazy. We're all seeing this. and then just trying to make sense of the things going from there.
Well, I think like when Traditionis Custodes came out, I was so angry I was shaking. I was livid, because it wasn't just that I'm a traditional Latin Mass guy and this is about the traditional Latin Mass. It was now to the point where how can we be the church that has continuity with the apostles when we don't even have continuity with the last pope, who's still alive, by the way?
Yeah.
The Catholic Church now literally changes so fast that no one can keep up with it. And so I really had to recalibrate what it was that I thought the Catholic Church is. Is the Catholic Church a political organization where it's our wing against their wing? And if that's what it is, then nobody should belong to it. And
So what do you think? What do you think the way forward is for us? So this is actually what I wanted to talk about tonight, because to me, what the situation for us is, this is how I have made sense of it. We are the apostles in the boat with the storm raging. Christ is asleep in the boat. We think the end is about to come, and he's about to wake up and go, you have little faith. Like that story of Christ sleeping in the boat while the waves are tossing the boat around, and the apostles all thought they were going to die. Yeah. And that's really what it seems like to me. So I'm looking at it like, no matter what's going on with the hierarchy in the world, the church, I just feel like it's nothing that God doesn't know that is happening. And I'm just saying, okay, I can't make sense of it. I'm not this amazing theologian. I'm just kind of going to have faith that God knows what's going on and he will intervene soon.
Yeah, I really think it for me personally, it came down to adopting a more Christocentric view of the church, focusing less about the cardinals and the popes and things like, I don't get invited to the conclave. Is that how we pronounce it? Is it pronounced conclave? Please tell me.
No, it is.
Okay.
So you got that one.
Okay. So I don't get it. I'm not, it's not like they're all conclave. Yeah. It's not
it's
one. They're all
bidet.
Conclave. And, when they're all at the Amazon Synod doing what they do, it's not like, hey, let's call Mark up and see if he gets to weigh in on this. The College of Cardinals has never called and asked me my opinion, and they ain't ever gonna. So what's my role in here? What is this Catholic Church that I feel like I need to be a member of? And for some reason, it dawned on me that I have not had, for the most part, a very Christocentric view of the church. I've been focused mostly on the people in the church. And not
there's a crisis of fatherhood right now. So like I feel comfortable speaking in generic terms about the hierarchy. I just don't feel comfortable singling someone out, right? So I actually spoke on the phone with Jeremiah Bannister yesterday or 2 days ago, and he told me, he goes, Ant, go back and read the story of David and look at how David handled it while he was under Saul, who was trying to kill him and was a total lunatic, right?
Yeah.
He's a total lunatic and he's trying to kill David. And what does David do? David actually gets so close to him while he's sleeping, he's able to cut a piece of his cloth off. And he still says, Saul, look, I could have killed you, but I didn't. Like, and he still respects this lunatic who's trying to kill him. And when Saul dies, David doesn't rejoice because now he's going to be the king. He mourns the loss of his king still. And you're talking about a horrific man, right? Saul was by the end. I mean,
I've always thought of it this way also. Like if you read the Old Testament, a lot, you have the Israelites, their faithful period, their falling away period, and it goes back and forth, right? And they had some pretty evil and wicked leaders. Just because they had those wicked and evil leaders and they they fell away from the faith as a general term, whole. They never cease to be God's people because of their leaders and whatnot. And I kind of view that with the Catholic Church, just because we may have leaders that are not good and even in some cases are truly evil, that doesn't mean that the church all of a sudden ceases to be the bride of Christ, right? We are still God's people despite those leaders. So there's no reason to run away because it won't do you no good, and in the end,
where are you gonna go?
Yeah, in the end, you're gonna be worse off for it.
And we have to remember that the here and now all of us in the church on earth now are such a small part of the church. The church militant is minuscule compared to the church suffering and the church triumphant. And you got, what helps me is thinking of it, as the democracy of the dead, that I owe loyalty and obedience, obviously to the hierarchy now, but not in a way that would cause me to disobey the church that's been around for 2,000 years.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Angela. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just wanted to jump on kind of what Jason was saying too, because I think for me, there was actually, man, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago when I kind of had a crisis of faith. And I knew, for me, Protestantism was off the table because I knew that the Catholic Church was the original church founded by Jesus Christ. So it was like, okay, so that leaves me with Islam or Judaism, because those are the only other monotheistic religions and the only other religions in which it would make sense to have one creator God, And so I was actually considering Judaism, because that was the one that made the most sense to me. It's like, okay, so maybe Christ wasn't the Messiah. So what is the reasoning behind why Jews do not accept Christ as the Messiah? And the more that I dug into that, I was like, I can't reconcile the typology between the Old Testament and the New Testament. It doesn't make sense. The New Testament does not make sense without this typological grounding behind it. And one of the stories that always pops out to me, and I think too, this is why so many people love this story, is the story of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, right? I think it resonates with a lot of people because you see in Joseph how his brothers betrayed him, and you would think everything, sell him into slavery. He's gone for years and years working as a slave, and eventually works his way up, because what we see in this betrayal and God redeems it, right? And God is working, and we read again in the New Testament that God he turns all things good for those who love him, right? I said that. I totally butchered that. But that's basically,
that's
within the story of Joseph, you see that. And I'm just like waiting in the church, like we've been sold off into slavery, and he's working the good for those who love him, for those of us who are faithful. And there will come a time in which all of a sudden those who rejected Christ, rejected his church, will come back, and the church will provide for them and will welcome them back into the fold, so that they can also be redeemed. And I really think that that's how this notion of salvation works, right? When we talk about how the Catholic Church actually, whether they're Catholic or not, if there's some weird reason why, Vatican II made all the characters more than, yes, that's so true. Yeah. Yep, that's a good point, Mac. But you see that that's how the church will achieve salvation, even for those people who right now are not Catholic, right? We always talk about anyone who is saved and is outside of the Catholic Church, if they are for whatever reason saved, it will be because of the merits of the church. Right. And I think it will work in that way.
Yeah. So Angela, can I ask you a question? Because I'm curious about this, because I've always felt of all the non-Catholic religions, Jews, I get it. I don't know how else to say it, but like I used to live in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood when I was in college, and there was something about their piety, or the way that they approach religion, that I was like, that I get that, right? So when you, because I don't know that enough of us examine Jesus's messiahship that much, and so you actually went through the journey of, okay, I'm going to start from let's see if I can reconcile Jesus is not the Messiah. Let's see if that, and you went through that. Did that help you grow a lot in your faith? You look back on that period as something that enriched your faith in Christ to maybe in a way that it hadn't been before?
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime that we do experience trial, like that's either what happens. It's a crucible where you either choose to walk away and it severs the spiritual life within you, or God uses it, right? And he uses it to strengthen our faith, but we have to accept that grace that he's offering to us in that moment so that we can be more edified. And then we read again, 1 Peter, to have a reason for our hope, right? And we have to be able to articulate that. And I think that those experiences, those spiritual deserts, really provide the groundwork for us moving forward. Like everything he does in our lives every trial is there to prepare us for something down the road, whether we realize it or not. That is something that I've found to be true in my own life. And I just think it's true for all of us because that's how we're sanctified. So, and he leads us gently, right? Like he leads us gently, and often we can't see what's in front of us. And he's just telling us to take that one next step, right? That one next step, you're totally blind, take one next step. And then you look back and you see it all and you're like, oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
You see God's hand in it after the fact. You don't see it in the moment. But that story actually made me think of so my original conversion. So I went from, I grew up Catholic, obviously. Then I just didn't practice the faith once I became a teenager. And then when I was in my 20s, like right after I got married, I actually went through something so similar where I was like, maybe Jesus isn't God. Like maybe this is just I was raised this way, and that's why I'm obviously Catholic because I was raised that way, not because, there's all these different religions. How do you know which one? And I remember actually saying to God, I was like, I don't know if you actually rose from the dead. So it was on Easter Sunday. I went to church with my wife's family at a Lutheran church and heard this whole sermon from a Lutheran pastor. And after church, I come home and I'm outside by myself sitting there. And I just looked up and I was like, God, if you're real, you got to prove it to me, because I'm saying in my head, maybe he didn't really die. Maybe they just thought he was dead and he was on the cross, but he didn't really die. I just couldn't. I was like, if you really rose from the dead, I need to know. I go in my house and I pop on Netflix, and in recently watched, there was a documentary on the Shroud of Turin, and I had never watched it. So I don't know how it ended up in my recently watched. Wow. And I had never heard of the Shroud of Turin, nothing. Wow. And I watched this documentary on the Shroud of Turin. I started it as a questioning agnostic, and I finished it a fully believing Jesus Christ rose from the dead. This cloth is the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Like, it flipped me out. I couldn't, and it was I guess they had it on because it was Easter, right? Talking about the resurrection, but it somehow ended up in my recently watched videos. I don't know if somebody in my family clicked it, but whatever happened, it was like one of these experiences where it was like, you could not have, it was God's hand in it. Oh, you don't believe I rose from the dead? Check this thing out and see what you think now. And I walked out of that documentary going, okay, I believe now. And that was where my faith journey began, right from there.
Can you imagine how upset the people at Netflix would be to know that?
Let me piggyback off you two, because I actually, it's not a story that involves me, but it's a story that resonates with me, because I guess I've seen a lot of symbolism in it, right? So my dad is 61 years old, and he's worked offshore since he was like 17 years old. About 10 years ago, he was in the Gulf of Mexico. There was a storm. Their rig started to sink, and the Mexican Navy actually had to come pick him up off their lifeboats and whatnot. But anyway, during that storm, my uncle had just started working at the same company as my dad, and they were offshore together. Well, as that boat was sinking, my dad had already gone down and was in the lifeboat. Well, as everything's rocking, the storm's blowing, my uncle was trying to come down on this ladder. Salt water hits him in the eyes. He has his eyes closed. Of course, it's salt water. It kind of burns, and he can't see what he's doing. Well, my dad was like, when I tell you to let go, let go. So when my dad told him in all faith, he just let go, fell right in the lifeboat, right? And I've thought about that in the sense of like your faith, right? Going back to what Angela was saying with being sold into slavery and having trust, holding on to that ladder, my uncle, you can liken it to us holding on to our fears, our anxieties, our need for control, pride, while God is down in the boat saying, just trust me, let go. You can't see what's going on, but trust me. And if we just, and I struggle with it just like anybody else, maybe more, but if we just can let go of all those fears, anxieties, fear of the unknown, your need for control, which is what I struggle with, many times it's going to turn out better for you and ultimately save you.
I think a lot of us need to stop paying attention to what's going on in Rome. I think a lot of us need to stop paying attention to all that and really just try to focus on, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to get into specifics, but anybody that knows saw I had a very rough week online. Like I just had a very rough week online. I was really unhappy with the way I handled myself in a couple of situations, but it made me regroup. And I asked my wife if she would start a consecration with me. And we both started a consecration to Mary 3 days ago. Just in those 3 days of getting back to praying my rosary, saying the prayers of the consecration, and reading the reflections that go with the consecration I'm doing, I felt so renewed. Not paying attention to any of that. Like I've been trying to stay away from watching YouTube videos and things like that. And I just feel like a new man from it. Like I'm not focusing on negative things. I'm not getting to it. I struggle with anger. You know, that's probably my.
I'm right
I mean,
there
if
with you.
Typical Italian.
it's just
And Irish. And Irish.
I'm Irish too. Yeah.
Oh,
and I'll
you're outnumbered
blow up,
already,
and
man.
then immediately after I feel horrific about my behavior, and I go from seeing red, flipping out, and then I feel horrific about the way I acted, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But there's only so many times you could do that where people just like, come on, man, this gets old. You know, but it's not an act I'm putting on. It really is this genuine thing. And the only way I can control that is having a prayer life. Like if I stop praying my rosary for 2-3 days, I start falling off the wagon and that is my lifeline to God. And without that, you'll see it within 2-3 days. My wife can tell me right away. She'll say, you need to go to confession and you need to start praying again because there's something going on with you right now.
So there are very few things that you feel so much better than when you come out of confession. You just I mean, it almost feels like you're floating.
You feel physically lighter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Physically lighter.
You can't explain it, I guess, but yeah, you do like all that weight is off of you.
Don't forget tomorrow, confession, communion, and prayer for the Holy Father, and the litany of the Sacred Heart, and a plenary indulgence under the usual conditions. But look up what the actual.
Wait, I did not know that. So there's a plenary indulgence for tomorrow?
If you recite the Litany of the Sacred Heart in a church, and then confession, communion, and prayer for the Holy Father, I believe you have a plenary indulgence. But I wanted to piggyback off what you guys were just saying. I think really at the root of all of our fear is this fear that tradition will not survive this pontificate, right? That they're just, Angela.
I had 2 raw eggs in my smoothie this morning, by the way. So,
but I wanted to share.
Let Mark go because I want to hear what he said. That was actually an interesting point.
I wanted to share a really beautiful story I heard about the survival of tradition that actually takes place from the Jewish perspective. And if you'll just permit me, because I heard this story and I felt like it translates to us in more ways than you might think. It's World War II. And there is a monastery in France that is hiding Jewish children. Okay. And the way that they're doing this is they're not keeping any records, no birth certificates, no nothing. So that when the Gestapo comes around, they're orphans. They're just orphans. We don't have any records on these children. The war ends. Third Reich falls. Blessed be the name of Jesus. And the rabbis come to get their children because their parents are all dead. And the nuns say, we don't know which children are yours. Now, I want to put you a pin in this story, and I want to tell, for those of you who don't know much about Judaism, there is a prayer in Judaism that amongst Jews, it's like the Our Father is to Christians. Even if you're not a practicing Christian, you know the Our Father. And this prayer comes from the 6th chapter of Deuteronomy. It's called the Shema. And it basically says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, blessed be the name of the Lord. And it's so important that when you say this prayer, you're supposed to cover your eyes so that you can concentrate on every word. And the rabbis say, what time do the children go to bed? It's around 8:30. We'll be back. Okay. They come back at 8:30. The head abbess leads them into the dormitory where all the children are sleeping. And the rabbi walks to the center of the dormitory and he says, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And several of the children begin to do this. And the rabbi said, these are our children. They're coming with us. Yeah. You see, holy tradition is not a list of things that we do because if we don't say the prayer in Latin, God's going to get mad at us. It's a gift that Christ has given us so that we will know who we are. And it will survive. That will survive this pontificate because it's survived for 2,000 years. and it's not going anywhere. And we have to have some faith in that they can't kill what God has ordained us to have. We have a right to these traditions, and we're going to keep them alive by the grace of God. And we already know who the winning team is. And when I heard that story, I thought there's a parallel in there for us. And I think you guys can make that connection. But when I heard
now,
that
what
story,
does it mean to be a traditional Catholic? Right? It's like I would say it's. I don't think it's that you need to know every single thing that the saints have said. You don't need to know every single traditional prayer. I think for the most part, it's people who love the traditional liturgy. I think it's people who believe the Orthodox faith. And I would say it's people who are trying to learn the tradition, because I'm very new to this and there are a lot of things I don't know yet. Like, so, I mean, you're talking, I've only been attending the Latin Mass for, I think since 2018, 2017. It was right after the Summer of Shame I started going. So I think that was 17. Obviously I'm reading things, I'm trying to learn things, but at the same time, it's like we have to allow leeway for new people that are coming in. We have to allow a little bit of a grace period for people who may not know things. I had a woman who asked me the other day that she's like, I want to be a traditional Catholic. I don't understand the traditional teaching on the death penalty. So she's a JP2 Catholic, and then she sees Francis puts what he says in the catechism about the death penalty. And we discussed this last time. But she didn't understand why the church was ever for the death penalty. Like she couldn't reconcile it in her mind because she had never heard it. But this was somebody that was eager to learn, and she wasn't coming at it like, "Oh no, you're wrong" or anything. She actually wanted to know, and it was just such a humble thing that she sent me a DM, but she was just very humble about it. Like, look, I don't know this, but I hear a lot of times, like, she'll see arguments going on about the death penalty online, and she's intimidated to even make a comment on it. Right. So she asked me in private to explain it to her, and I, kind of just went into explaining how St. Thomas Aquinas actually said that it's, the good of the soul is always the end. And there was actually, somebody put up a story the other day. It was about a man who had the intellect of a 10-year-old, was on death row. And I think it was actually a Sedevacantist bishop.
Yeah, Bishop Dolan, who just died recently. Yeah,
so Bishop Dolan, this not handicapped, he was just mentally challenged. And he didn't know how to read or write. And God gave him the ability to read out of nowhere. When he had a Bible in front of him, all of a sudden he understood the words. So he starts writing letters to all these pastors and the only one who responded was a Sedevacantist bishop. I wept reading this story. It had nothing to do with him being a Sedevacantist bishop. It just had to do with how this bishop treated this man like that he cared about his soul. And it was this, the guy was on death row, but because he was on death row, he contemplated his death. If he wasn't on death row, he would have got mixed into general population. He would have met up with a couple other guys, gotten into a bad, but because he had to contemplate his existence coming to an end, it made him question, is there a God? And that's the main reason why the death penalty is really for the good of the soul when it comes down to it.
I mean, I
Joe ain't crying, it's dying. Don't worry.
She's super happy right now.
I think there's so many people who want to know more about their faith, and because of the politics and the nastiness and everything, they're afraid to weigh in or ask questions and things like that. But hopefully this could be a welcoming place where here's the way I look at it. All I'm going to tell you is the truth. And what you do with the truth is up to you. I won't lie to you. So like I have friends who are Jewish, and one time when my Jewish friend asked me, so is Jesus really necessary for salvation? And you know how uncomfortable that it is now, have this conversation. And it would have been so easy to just say something like, nah, because you don't want to be awkward or whatever. I don't have the right to do that. I don't have the right to tell this person a lie and tell her something that I do not believe is the truth. So I told her, yeah, no, we believe that. And you want to know what her response was? Thank you for not lying to me. Every time I ask a Christian that question, they always try to finesse the truth. They think I'm an idiot that I don't know that. And if for nothing else, she said, I just appreciate the fact that you were honest, and now I trust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
When growing up, so the town that we moved to when I was, gosh, I think I was in 7th grade. So I must have been like 12 or something. Because I was younger in my class. Anyway, but the town there, it's very Protestant population, very anti-Catholic, in fact. And like vehemently so. Catholics are definitely a minority there. And kids would tell
Where
me
was this?
out in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, like west of the Twin Cities, probably about an hour and a half. And kids on the bus, I think within the first week, were telling my siblings and I that we were all going to hell because we were Catholic.
I had a neighbor. A neighbor as a kid told me that.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, how
you're Catholic,
cool.
You're going to hell.
Yes, yes. Now as an adult looking back on that, I mean, first of all, it's kind of, I don't know, there's one thing about like how parents are teaching their children, but at the same time, I'm like, at least they really believe what they're being taught. You know, like there's a sincerity there. And so I have so much more respect for that than people who will totally capitulate on whatever their beliefs are because they don't want to make other people uncomfortable.
They don't want to offend.
Yes.
Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Now, because they act like they believe their religion is true.
Yes.
Whatever you want to say about it. I mean,
they don't apologize for it.
The fastest growing Christian denominations, pseudo-Christian. I mean, Mormonism, another religion where the people do really live what they claim to believe.
Did any of you see the documentary on the fundamentalist Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
I read the book, and so when certain parts of that documentary started to come on, I had to turn it off, man, because it is so
one of the creepiest things you'll ever see. This was a pedo cult. It was a pedo cult. Their theology was whoever has the most kids and whoever has the most kids is higher up on the theological hierarchy. They were making 12, 13-year-old girls marry 80-something-year-old men. Now, these 12, 13-year-old girls, their mothers did not prepare them to tell them what marriage was. So at 12, 13, all of a sudden they get picked to be married. They're excited. Oh, I get to be married now. They have no idea that they're about to go and sleep with an 80-something-year-old man. They have no idea what sleeping with is. They don't know any of it. And they go in. It is heartbreaking to see this, what this cult, because it's a cult. I mean, it was just so horrific. The way they try to play off polygamy like it's a good thing is so insane. What is that Gregory saying? Oh,
Gregory's wondering if it's Under the Banner of Heaven, and I believe it is, right?
What's that?
The name of the documentary.
Oh, you know what? I don't even know. I was just watching it and clicking next episode. Yeah, it is. Listen, it's a hard one to watch. There's actually parts of it where you'll just go, I can't get through this episode. Like it was really difficult.
I couldn't do that. That's actually why I don't watch any TV. I maybe watch TV like 6 times a year. And it's probably 5 times out of that 6, it's an episode of The Office.
Oh, that's it. I gotta go.
We're done with that right there.
Me and Rob, we're putting that. Don't even go into it. I don't want to hear about Michael or whoever it is. I don't want to hear about it.
I've got a funny story about. So I'm really good friends with some Mormons, right? They're 5 brothers, really good guys.
Joe, you want to come on? I'll send you a link.
But
you are technically part of the channel, bud.
Joe, if you want to come on, I'll send you the link.
So anyway, he was talking about, because in Salt Lake City and stuff, I don't know if you've ever been there and whatnot. I mean, they do have a drug problem as well, right? Just like everywhere else. Just because it's Mormon doesn't mean they don't have it. But he used to tell me that, because they're not supposed to drink caffeine, I think, and do and other things. He was like, well, in high school, so they could still be in line with the church and not violate, the Mormon church's teachings on drug use and stuff like that. He goes, they used to do robo trips, and I'm like, what's a robo?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's
it's
a
triple
robo trip?
C's. And
he goes,
Robitussin.
they just drank a bunch of Robitussin to get high, and I'm like, dude, people find a way to get around the laws to make them feel better.
But Brigham Young is what Catholic universities ought to be. I mean, the dating on campus is like it's not like dating is on a college campus. It's like this very sort of, I mean, you make fun of them for being prudes, but I'll tell you what, they don't get divorced, those people. So
where's that? BYU?
Brigham Young University.
Where is that?
Utah.
It's in Utah.
Provo, Utah.
Yeah, Brigham Young University is the Mormon university, but I mean, there's no smoking on campus. There's no drinking, obviously, on campus. And I'm not saying our universities necessarily should be that unfun, but
I was part of a dry campus. I know how that goes.
Okay, yeah, but I mean,
probably not totally dry.
Right.
Listen,
yeah.
My wife went to Catholic school. Those kids were doing coke in the bathroom, so I don't want to hear about it.
Oh, I know.
It's like, there's always when there's a will, there's a way with kids that are going to do it. But no, you're probably right.
There's a Planned Parenthood on campus at Loyola University. Come on, man. We can do better than that. We can do better than that, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And then they're having LGBT pride events and all that stuff too.
I just saw Loyola University came out with Pride Month t-shirts, and I was like, I'm done with the alumni association is not getting a dime from me.
Well, so look at what happened in Chicago the other day, right? They had after they got done with the bubble guy, the giant bubble guy. They had the two men came up on Father's Day to tell their story, right? It's two men to a married couple, to tell their story. Now, something like that, I watched like 15 or 16 different people came out with videos about it, excoriating it, which we're about to do the same thing ourselves, right? Now, I was thinking, what if instead of us all sharing that video online and clicking share so that, like, what if instead of, because we are the ones who blew that up. Like, nobody would have known about that except that little parish if we didn't share it around to make sure everybody saw it. Now, what happens is, because we're sharing that with everyone, people on the outside will actually get this impression that the church is like that in a lot of places because they're seeing this from every place. But in reality, this is this one small parish. Everyone there is gray hair. The youngest person I saw was 70 years old. I mean, you're talking, this is a dying parish. I mean,
but I think that is the majority of parishes, at least that I've seen.
In Chicago?
No.
Or in the church?
Small town Minnesota, even.
Yeah. Well, I would say even more so in the Twin Cities. I mean, man, St. Joan of Arc in Minneapolis has to be one of the worst parishes in the entire country, but they don't get the same notoriety because it's, it's not Chicago. I don't know.
The church with the Eucharist,
they don't have seepage.
The doggy bags was in Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
Now, do you, Rob, I know you go to a Novus Ordo once in a while. Is it a solid Novus Ordo parish?
No.
No?
Well, it depends on your definition.
All right, so I have one that is very orthodox in the teaching of the faith, but it's also like, and I'm talking, you'll hear the priest do, he'll give talks on abortion, he'll give talks on pornography. Like, I've heard some amazing homilies at this parish. If you send your kids there, they teach your kids real pro-life stuff. It is a solid orthodox parish in teaching. That same parish, I got denied communion on the tongue. That same parish is one of the worst liturgical messes I've ever been to. So it's like, it is very hard. The only Novus Ordo Mass that is solid in my diocese is the Latin Mass parish I go to. That's St. Rocco's. St. Matthew's not, I mean, at least they let you kneel and they have kneelers and they'll communion on the tongue. So I go to two different diocesan TLMs. The one in Glen Cove, that I've been there, it's an actual ad orientem Novus Ordo, and let's see.
I go to a unicorn Novus Ordo like that.
Father Felix in downtown Houston at Annunciation, he does both the Novus Ordo and the Latin Mass. And I don't know if you've ever been down there during a Novus Ordo Mass, but he does one of those unicorn. Like,
also the Dominican Fathers at Holy Rosary.
He'll only do communion on the tongue. He actually faces ad orientem. He uses Latin, so he's one of those rare cases.
I just want to say one thing, because White Wolf follows. Yeah. He watches every episode of ours, and he's a Sede. He's a Sedevacantist. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure he is. But I was reading
the comments, and I was like, "Yeah, that's a Sede." Right?
He may not be, so I don't want to.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure he is. But he watches almost every one of our shows. So I really do like him. He's an awesome supporter and stuff. My issue with Sedevacantism is that if you don't have an internet connection and you're not from a first world country, you've never even heard of Sedevacantism. Yeah. Like, do you think anybody in Africa or the slums of Peru have heard of Sedevacantism? They haven't. So to me, the idea that God would hide his church from the poor and the holy in these little places that are doing, you know, that are actually trying to live holy lives. It's just a very hard jump for me to oh, okay, he's a benefit contest. Never mind. Okay.
JMT made a very good comment. Sedevacantism is
Gnostic.
It's not.
Yeah. It's but I don't want to. I'm sorry, Angela. I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't want to box everybody in. I'm sure there are studies in good faith. I think we're all in this mess that we don't know what the hell's going on, and we're just trying to make sense of it. But I'm sorry, Angela. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to kind of talk more about what he just said about these unicorn Novus Ordo parishes kind of being somewhat the problem. So for me, I'll give you an example. A parish that I was a part of a few years ago, my husband and I were actually both pretty involved. I was the chair on their parish council even. And
you were Susan.
I was Susan. I was the youngest person there. I was like the Susan's inverse.
They're probably so excited to have you though.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was interesting because I was coming into traditionalism and our priest was a younger priest in his seminary. He was pretty fresh out of seminary and was more interested in bringing more traditional elements into the Novus Ordo Mass. And oh my goodness, the parish went crazy when he said he was planning on maybe saying 3 prayers ad orientem throughout the entire Mass. And that was a no-go. So he decided not to do that. And then in a parish council meeting, somebody in our meeting said, well, how do we kind of get more people to come back into the parish? I mean, I remember back in the 80s, you know, they started doing like liturgical dancing. Should we start incorporating more of that? And my jaw just like hit the floor.
Wait a minute. This was at the parish you started at?
So a few years ago. And then my husband and I moved. Oh, and it gets worse. There was it was a kids mass at the school on a Wednesday. I was going to daily mass with my kids, and it was All Saints Day, so it was right after Halloween, and the priest was throwing Snickers bars down the aisles to kids in the makeshift pews for All Saints Day. And I remember I emailed him after and I said, and this was the priest that I had been working with as a member of the parish council up to that point. And I said, I know how hard it is for you guys right now to capture people's attention and especially at a children's mass, like I get that, but please don't make the same mistakes that your forefathers have made by sacrificing reverence for novelty. Yep. And he got so angry with me.
It's like they
so
can't.
Mad.
Yeah, they'll never make the cognitive connection that those are the things that are pushing people out. Right. Like they don't grasp that's not fun to us. You're not entertaining us. You're boring us, and you're making us cringe.
And so that's what got me over Traditionalist Custodes, because I was ready to leave the church, go Orthodox, and then I figured out, they wrote this because that's what they want me to do. They want me to leave the church. They don't want to go to church with me. They don't want me joining their parish and joining the parish council. So I can't go to the FSSP parish anymore. I got to go. Okay, fine. Me and all my fellow parishioners are going to come over to your Novus Ordo parish, and we're going to join the parish council. And we'll see and when you complain, I'm going to say, but you wanted to journey together, remember? Right.
So I want to juxtapose that with the parish that we attend now, because we kind of church hopped, and I was previously pretty opposed to that. But, you have kids and you realize kids learn through experience, and you can't articulate to them the truths of the Catholic Church when they're young children and have them understand that. So they have to see it. Hi, Stephen.
Stephen would never let those Snickers bars get out of the priest's hands in the first place. He'd have attacked that man.
I love Snickers too. But this is the problem with Traditionalist Custodes, is that you get a parish like the one that my husband and I found and attend. It has a great community, and no, do we love that it's a Novus Ordo? No, but our priest really wants to do the traditional mass.
But not just that, you found an Orthodox priest, right? He wants
to move the parish in that direction, and it takes time. But the problem is that now you have something like Traditionalist Custodes, in which you have
he's kind of deadlocked.
He's stuck in a hard place. He can't do it now. The way that he was moving the parish. I mean, he celebrates ad orientem. We sing Latin throughout the mass where we can.
No, it's not just that. Now you love the people at the parish too.
And the parish is great too.
Like that's your family, right? A parish is supposed to be your family.
This whole FSSP every once in a while.
This whole idea of us traveling 45 minutes to go to a parish because we like the liturgy is an alien thing that should never have to exist. I mean, it has to. We have no choice. But you should be at your local parish with
Ideally,
people from your community who know one another. You could leave your kids with the other person from the parish because you're growing up together. You're all homeschooling together. You're not supposed to have to drive an hour because you want to catch a solid. What it's doing is it's furthering the divide of the church, because now people want a liberal mass, they go find the liberal parish. People want a conservative mass, and it's fracturing the church and it's separating us. Instead of us,
that's what vernacular masses do.
Your community too. We drive by. We live in the middle. We have 2 parishes, 2 Catholic churches within a mile of our house, and we drive 25 minutes away. We pass 2 more. We pass 2 other Catholic churches on our way there.
On your way there.
And that's the lesson of the Tower of Babel. Anytime we try to build our own power and our own expertise, the tower that's going to build it, that's going to take us up to heaven, it's always going to disintegrate into a billion different, just nonsense babble. And that's what we have.
I have to go to 3 separate parishes. One of them has, the one that's actually close is 25 minutes away, and they only do it on the 1st and 3rd Sundays. The other one is 45 to 50 minutes away. I love that parish, but it's only at 11:30. So it's like, if you have anything going on that day, you can't, so I'll have to go to the SSPX once in a while, because that's the only way that I was an early mass. I don't feel at home at any of them, because every week I'm at a different parish. Now, thank God I've made friends that are so Don follows the same schedule as me. We go to the 1st and 3rd at the one, and then we go to the other one at the other. And I know Joe at the SSPX parish. So I'm starting to get to know people at each parish. But it's been years that I've been going there that I'm just finally starting to make a little bit of a base at each one, where I could stay after mass now and hang out and have coffee with guys. But that wasn't like that for a long time for me.
I wanted to go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was going to ask Jason, because we have Regina Chaley is our FSSP parish.
And Dickistry.
Mark,
we're being hard on you tonight. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Man, okay. Anthony makes you feel like you got to go fast before he gets you.
Yeah.
Listen, I expect you guys to get on me just as fast when I make a mistake.
One of these days, I'm going to come in with the tracksuit. But the gold chain, the gold chain's going to be in the chest hair, okay? And I'm going to be Anthony. Let me tell you something.
But listen, we have to just say our first get together was a private video chat, and I spent 15 minutes trying to convince Angela not to do this with us. I'm like, Angela, listen, I'm not that I don't want you. I'm just telling you, I get people in trouble. No, I get people in trouble, and I don't want you to feel like you're, oh man, I can't believe I'm associated with them. This poor Rob.
I can confirm.
Yeah, I'm dragging Rob's reputation down into the mud with me.
Mark, what was your question?
There's a Novus Ordo parish called St. Matthew's. It's got to be 25 yards as the crow flies.
I don't know anything about St. Matthew's.
We are literally right next door to each other, and we pretend like the others do not exist.
That's
not right.
I literally live 5 minutes from the parish that I converted into, and I pass another parish on my way to Regina Chaley. But I've wanted to bring this up because earlier,
ask the people in the comments, guys. In the comments, just post how long your drive to mass is while Jason's telling this story. Post how long your drive to mass is.
One way or round trip?
One way. Just how long does it take you to get to mass while Jason's telling this story? And
how many parishes do you drive by on the way?
Yeah, How long is the drive, and how many parishes do you pass on the way? But go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
Luckily, mine's only a 25-minute drive to Regina Chaley. But anyway, we're talking about traditionalist custodes and whatnot. Earlier in the chat, Robert Carlin made the comment that Pope Francis did more for the TLM than anyone since Pius V.
Keep the motu proprios coming, baby.
And the thing is in my experience, I cannot tell you how many times we have seen new people at our parish who were many times coming over just say, hey, what's all this traditionalist custodes stuff about? And there's been a lot of people that didn't even know about the FSSP parish and the Institute of Christ the King. They didn't even know there was this divide, right? And as people investigated it, they're like, these people ain't bad. And a lot of them have also, in our experience, Mark can attest to this at our parish, have moved parishes. Like we have Catholic kids faith camp coming up this summer. Within like 30 minutes, it was booked out. Like they could take no more kids because it was max. I talked to a Catholic deacon that lives across the street from me. He saw me wearing an FSSP shirt one day, and he was like, "You're Catholic, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Where do you go?" I go, "Oh, we go to this Regina Caeli FSSP parish, a fraternity parish." Didn't know what it was. Like,
really?
Didn't know what it was, right? And my point being that there are so many people since Traditionalist Custodes has come out that now are much
not even
more,
just Traditionalist.
Well,
since Francis.
Well, particularly that, and even COVID kind of accelerated.
Yeah, COVID too. COVID was definitely a big turning point for people. No communion on the tongue really pushed people away too.
A lot of people that like I said didn't know about it. He has pushed them into examining traditional Catholicism, and a lot of these people are saying, actually, I prefer this, because it goes back to pandering. We're talking about people don't want to be lied to, right? So when we talk about kids all the time, kids may deny it, say they don't like being disciplined, they don't like structure when they're young, but ultimately deep down that's what they need. And
all of us do.
We are the same that as we get older.
What a great point.
We may like or say that we like people pandering to us, lying to us, and making us feel good about ourselves.
You want your parent to discipline you.
Yeah, but deep down, that's not what you want. So when you have somebody actually give you the truth, especially in today's society where truth is so subjective, it's a breath of fresh air. You're like, man, I like that. Even though I disagree with him, I like that guy because he was truthful with me.
Well, look at it like this. If you have a daughter who, my daughter's in her teen years now, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't want you wearing that. I don't want you wearing that. And my wife says to me, she goes, but she's probably just going to bring a change of clothes and change when she goes anyway. I said, that's not on me at that point. That's on her and her conscience. But I still have to be the one to say, no, you can't do this, because she will look back later on in life and say, my dad did try to protect me, and my dad did try to,
Yeah, and I can even say the reverse of that. As a young woman, I can remember my mom, I think she was just excited that I was finally wearing feminine clothing because I dressed like a boy until I was well into middle school. And yeah, I think she was just excited to have a daughter that was dressing more femininely. So she would buy not anything, but there were things that I look back in hindsight and I'm like mortified that they were things that I wore, and that I wore with not only my mother's blessing, but she was the one that was buying it,
Yeah. And we have to be careful not to be harsh on our parents, because
no. Yeah. I mean,
we all have to be.
We're all just doing the best that we can.
That's what I was just gonna say. I know my mom. My mom has broken down crying because I remember saying to her, when we were younger, you didn't actually give us a lunchbox. You put it in a paper bag. She would make our lunch. She had 9 kids. She's doing the best she could. She put our lunch in a paper bag. And she was just like, I was so cruel to you guys. Like, no, you weren't. You were doing the best you could. Don't worry. It's silly stuff.
Right then and there.
Going to Anthony's point where you mentioned your daughter is going to look back, even if she goes against you, she'll look back one day and know that you loved and cared and were looking for the best. There was a book that I read 14 years ago. I can't remember who wrote it, but we were about to have our first kid. It was a girl. And the book was called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters.
Yep.
And there was now this is more of an extreme case compared to what you're talking about, but there was a girl who was she was doing like a study, high school study group or whatever with another boy. The boy sexually assaulted her, or tried to. I can't remember which one, but either way, the daughter came home crying, told her mother and her father, and the father said, boys will be boys, got up and went to go play a golf round. And this doctor who wrote the book, she said, because of that daughter suffered many psychological issues, because even if her father would have gone over there and just confronted the guy face to face, didn't even have to get physical, didn't even have to call, but if he would have made one effort to stand up for his daughter, it would have saved this young lady years of therapy, right?
Yeah.
So
and it, like I said, that's more of an extreme case. But as fathers, particularly as Catholic fathers in such a secular, degenerate society, even though our kids push back against us, they will look back one day and know that we loved and cared for them, and that will help them strengthen their faith later in life.
So when I met my wife's father, it was because my wife's Cuban, right? So her father is, shall we say, old school. Okay.
Yeah.
And she was very nervous. She says he is a little intense and he's very protective.
Was he Catholic?
This is gonna, I mean, no.
Culturally.
But yeah,
Nominally,
culturally.
yeah.
Right,
Culturally,
nominally.
but just traditional minded as an old school guy.
But he sized me up and, you know, and got, I mean, I don't want to say got in my face, but let me know this, you know, she's special. And I told my wife, I said, I don't want to say I wouldn't be with you, but I wouldn't be seriously considering spending the rest of my life with you if you didn't have a dad like that. Because when you have a father like that communicates that message to his children, that you're not just somebody for other people to use and abuse, and you're not worth anything. You are a child of God. And you're worth something. That translates out into the rest of the world, and it will make her want to seek out men who understand that level of worth and, you know, and that level of commitment. And I said, I don't have any problem with this. This is what dad is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
That argument I have with my wife about my daughter wearing that stuff, my other daughter overheard it. And it, like, we were starting to get like a little intense about it. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was just like, it was just like,
come on.
No, I was like, this is my daughter. Don't tell me not to, you know, because my wife was raised very different than me. So my wife is 3 girls, was raised in a house with 3 girls, no boys. The mother is very feminine. So they were all about, like Angela, you were saying, like they loved getting dressed up and putting makeup on. She just comes from a very different cultural aspect. And my other daughter heard us arguing over it, and I saw her run in her room. She didn't want to be around hearing us argue. So I went into my daughter's room afterward, and I sat down with her, and I said, do you understand why Daddy was getting upset? She's like, because you didn't like what Sophia was wearing. I said, well, also, you just have to understand, it is my job as a father to protect my little girls. I said, and it's going to be the same thing with you. If you're wearing something that I'm not crazy about, I said, I would be a bad dad if I wasn't getting upset about this stuff. I said, that is my role, to be very protective of my girls. And I want to make sure that a boy likes you for who you are inside and not what you just are wearing or what you look like. You don't need to dress a certain way or be a certain, you know, wear certain things to get a boy's attention and to be loved by him. They should love you for who you are. And it was like, even at 9 or 10, it, like, you could see it registering in her mind that she was like, oh, okay, you know. So
here's what I want to do, because in talking about all of this and the importance of fatherhood, especially for daughters, but also sons too. But to me, this is just such a reflection of the bigger issue right now culturally. I mean, it's not just that we have fathers who have absconded from their duties as fathers in the nuclear family, but also in the church. Like, that's why we're all floundering, right? Like, we don't.
The whole church, the whole crisis is a crisis of fatherhood.
Right, exactly. And that's been the biggest problem with feminism. One of the many problems. But you know, we've cast aside girls. Yes, that is also true.
Yeah, you're gonna attract a guy that's just looking to use them. So. Exactly.
But it's the same thing. Like, you look within the church and you see that there are so many fathers who have absconded. And I think for most of us, when we've struggled with our faith the most, it was because we didn't see a man that we could respect. It was because there wasn't a man speaking the truth in love to us. It was a man who had absconded from his duties as a spiritual father to us. And that made us lost. Like, we started questioning, because you start to question your own identity when your father is not present.
Big
right?
time.
Yeah,
my dad left at 3 years old.
Mine is
really?
Oh man!
That.
And
wait, you both had fathers that left?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And
so
and
my dad,
and up to that 16-year-old that found Christ, from the age of 3 up to 16, I ran the streets and acted like an idiot, and
so did I.
fell in
All
with the
my
wrong
rough years
crowd
were when I
and
was
all
young.
What I did is I found a spiritual father who schooled me in the faith, and we're still close to this very day. If any of you are in Houston, Texas, and you know Lawrence Lalou, who used to own St. Francis of Assisi Religious Goods, We would sit in the back of that Catholic religious goods store and
Been
make St. Joseph kits and make rosaries.
At
And
16?
he would teach me about what it meant to be Catholic. And
Now, Angela,
I'm grateful to this
Mark,
day.
go ahead.
That's okay.
Yeah. Now, Angela, do you remember your dad leaving?
Yeah, certain aspects of it, yes.
Steven, he said
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, so it was a tumultuous time. My dad was an alcoholic, and there were a lot of issues. It was very there was just a lot going on at the time. So there are moments that I remember. I remember moments when my parents would get into fights and he would leave and things like that. And I also had a strong sense of the spiritual even at a really young age. Discernment of spirits and things like that. So I was very aware.
Now, did you have a relationship with him after he left, or did he leave and that was it? He was out of the picture.
It was complicated. He had, I don't know how much to say, but
well, don't reveal anything you don't want to. I didn't mean to press.
I mean, it was complicated. So he was in jail for some time, and then he actually had a warrant out for his arrest. He was supposed to do jail time in another county as well, but his brother kind of worked it out with the judge to fly him back to his home state so that he and under the pretense that he would go to rehab. That was kind of the agreement. So he didn't have to do a jail time at this other county. He went home and went to rehab. But there was a time too when he lived here and we would see him every other weekend or whatever. But yeah, I mean, at that time his life was just such a mess. So it was not a very safe environment, even at that time after my parents had separated. And then there were many years when I didn't hear from him. He didn't come to my wedding. He didn't meet my husband until I was pregnant with my first daughter.
Are you talking to him now?
A few times a year, mostly. It's
think about what a miracle it is that your life turned out the way it did without having I mean, that's a major thing for a young girl to not have a positive male role model in her life. I mean, that's a lot of girls wind up on the pole, and I'm not saying that in like a mean way. Like a lot of girls do. I mean, it's I said it very
they're
crass.
looking for love in the very
you're looking for love. I mean,
places.
that was a crass way of saying it, but I mean, girls end up
he's been really good.
So I'm a criminal defense attorney. I deal with criminals all day long, and I can tell you the one unifying factor amongst all my clients was dad was not at home.
Yep. So
male, female, black, white, whatever.
My mom remarried a good guy, but I wouldn't say that he wasn't a strong leader in our home. So I in a sense, and I love him to death. We have a good relationship, but for most of my childhood, I felt fatherless because I didn't have a father that I sensed was a protector necessarily. My mom kind of ruled the roost. So yeah, I actually attribute a lot of the grace in my life. My mom says that I told her at one point that I saw Our Lady in my bedroom one day. I went to collect my mom's rosary. She asked me to get it for her from underneath her bed, and I was looking at the metal in it. And she asked me just kind of, casually while she was making her bed, "Oh, do you know who that is?" And I said, "Yeah, I've seen her." And I've never been a liar. That's just never been that's never been my.
So as
MO.
a kid, you either saw Mary or your imagination or something.
Yeah,
but it was
or my guardian angel too, because I had a very strong devotion, interestingly enough, to my guardian angel. Like one of the first prayers I memorized was the guardian angel prayer, and I remember saying it all the time because I was seeing demonic spirits in my house, and I was experiencing things that, there was just so much evil permeating my life at that time, and I think God has spared me in so many ways. I mean, just preserving my faith. I didn't have a true crisis of faith until a few years ago, despite all of this other stuff going on in my life.
Now, wait,
and in the book Slaying Dragons, he makes the argument, rightfully so in my mind, that the fathers are responsible for demonic activity in their homes.
Yeah.
Many times. Yeah.
You have spiritual authority over them. But so when you met your husband, was your husband already involved, took his faith seriously and stuff, or did you guys convert together? How did that story go?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So he was raised kind of in a old country Lutheran church, and what he didn't know until we were Yeah, he was actually baptized Catholic though, and he didn't know that until we were doing our marriage prep, and he was converting to
Really?
Catholicism. Yes.
Wow.
So the graces of his baptism totally manifested in our relationship. And at the time, I mean, our conversion, we were off. I mean, I shouldn't say awful, but I mean, we partied a lot. We
Was
did
this
a lot of bad
pre-marriage or
stuff.
post-marriage that you converted?
Pre-marriage.
Yeah.
Pre-marriage.
Yep, pre-marriage. And then he eventually we kind of got to the point when I said I knew I wasn't going to marry him unless he converted to Catholicism, because I was starting to grow in my faith, and he knew that was important to me, and his faith was somewhat important to him, but it was more of like I talk to God type of thing, but it wasn't
this is like you and I have the exact same story where my wife is in the same. She was raised Missouri Synod Lutheran, so they had a liturgy. It was in some ways more Catholic than a Novus Ordo, because they would kneel to receive communion and stuff.
Yeah.
But same thing, like she spoke to God, but it wasn't until like a couple of years back where she was actually like, I love Jesus, and it was a very powerful thing. Mm-hmm. So now you guys you told him you wouldn't marry him unless he was Catholic.
I left that wide open.
How many children you have? How many children do you have?
We have five kids, five surviving kids. We did have a miscarriage after our first, but yeah. So he converted. He actually had his first I think his first communion might have been our wedding day. He came into the church like the Thursday before our wedding, officially, in like a small ceremony just with our priest, because we both wanted to have a full mass for our wedding. He had been coming to mass with me, but before we got married, I sort of was like, I'll church hop with you, and I'll go to mass like Saturday night or go to the last chance mass on campus, because I mean I was still in college. And so we did that for a while, and then there was one Sunday he decided he wanted to check out the Catholic parish. He didn't like any of the Lutheran churches that we had gone to. And I never bashed them. I just always said after we got done, like, what did you think? And he would tell me what he liked and what he didn't like. And we just kept church hopping. We went to the Catholic church, and talk about strong fathers. The priest there gave this incredible homily talking about the issues of the day, politics. I think he might have touched on homosexuality and abortion in the same homily. And my husband was drawn to that. He was like, he respected that. And he thought, he was like, I have not heard anybody speak like that ever from the pulpit.
Yeah, men don't want some wishy-washy, feel-good sermon, especially if they're new to something. They want to hear. They want to be challenged.
Yes, and so that was the first thing. And he never wanted to try any other parishes churches in the area after that. And then eventually, I just said, we're getting to a point where it's time to either like make a decision. And there were other things going on too, but it was like, we either need to pursue marriage, which I know I just can't do that unless it's somebody who is committed to the faith, because I saw how that worked with my own parents. They didn't share the same faith. And I was like, I'm not going to push you. If you decide that Catholicism's not right for you, I'm okay with that. That just means to me that God doesn't want us to get married, and that there's somebody else out there. And at that time, we had probably been together for about 2.5 years. And he eventually, he was like, yeah, I think I do want to become Catholic. And that was when we found out that he was baptized Catholic, and all this other stuff ensued. Wow, so yeah, it was really awesome.
So what did he, so he just had to receive the rest of his sacraments, right? At that point.
Yeah. He didn't have to be baptized.
Wow.
And
So the Lutheran baptism would be accepted anyway, though. So my wife didn't have to get rebaptized. She had to just make her first communion and reconciliation and confirmation.
I guess the Lutherans have it. Yeah, confirmation, right?
Yeah, because it's not a confirmation in the Lutheran church is not the same as a confirmation in the Catholic church.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the now famous interview with Jordan Peterson and that Kathy woman on Channel 4?
Yeah, 100%.
She asked him a question that I think speaks to the heart of the matter here. She asked him, so what gives you the right to be offensive? And his answer is the answer of why he is so popular, but the modern day Catholic Church kind of isn't. And he said, because you have to risk being offensive in order to tell the truth. And the Catholic hierarchy isn't willing to risk offending anyone.
Well, look at Jordan Peterson with Bishop Barron. They had the same conversation, and Bishop Barron says, the church emphasizes mercy too much. And then he goes on and talks about, dare we hope all men are saved, and mercy. And he never gives the other side.
Yeah, he told
It's like, whoa, you're having this conversation with Jordan Peterson and then not doing it. Like, if you
the
recognize
whole
it.
reason that people are buying any of this critical race theory crap is the world is desperate to believe in something.
Yeah.
Anything. Give me
Yeah.
an
Religious
ethos.
creatures, yeah.
Give me an ethos. And the Catholic Church is just back here going, we'll wait all this out. I mean, they'll stick up for the truths that are not controversial.
Jesus accepted everybody with no
But they
questions
won't-
asked.
but
Is
they
what,
won't-
is what a lot of these people are peddling.
And all I have to say to the hierarchy is the whole world is waiting whenever you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much longer, but
I got about 10 minutes left, guys. You can continue on when we're done.
I think I got to go too. Actually, it's getting
Well, I do want to make this comment real quick.
I got about 10 minutes, so I'm just giving you
Well,
guys a heads up. We
in
want
the
to start to try to tighten things up.
In
now.
the beginning, we talked about the traditional transmissions, but we never got into the design aspects of it. And I thought that would be kind of cool just to kind of maybe right at the end, let Mark kind of explain, because Mark came up with the design.
I can't. Yeah, can we put?
Yeah, I can do that.
Quick?
And
so
Mark, maybe if you want, since there's several people that have come in later, maybe if you just want to not go through the whole spiel, but just a brief of what this is about.
Yeah,
and then
and then tell them some of the bad ideas we shot down too, because those were pretty funny.
All my ideas.
Our idea here is to pool our resources at all of our different podcasts, and we all kind of fit a unique and interesting. We specialize in a unique and interesting area of the apostolate, and we're going to sort of try and unite under a single banner that we can share resources, promote each other's content, and ultimately lead those to the truth. I'm not really a creative person. So when I came up with this, I said some prayers to St. Luke, who is the patron saint of artists and things like that, which I'm not. So, and every element of this design is intentional. First thing, we have the shield, which is the armor of God that we put on that protects us from evil. The blue of the shield stands obviously for Our Lady, who we are under her motherly protection. The sword and the keys are symbols of Saints Peter and Paul, and that symbolizes our adherence to the apostolic authority. We carry on the traditions of the apostles. This is the faith that the apostles gave to us. The skull is a reminder, obviously, of our mortality. And if you notice, the skull is facing east, and the skull is illuminated from the east. So we await the second coming. And that's where the truth and it comes from. It's from Christ, and we await the second coming in that respect. The motto at the bottom says "Contra omnes errores," which is Latin. It means against all errors. And we had a couple of we were floating with some different names, and we landed on traditional transmissions. That seemed to be that was actually
cool.
Yeah, that Jason came up with that name, traditional transmissions, and we all just kind of liked that one. And so
Jason comes off like he's this southern redneck, but he says some
he has
sharp,
all of those things.
He's got some sharp poison. Every once in a while,
Every once in a while, yeah.
Jason,
If
you come
can
out with some
decipher
fire
my
points.
English, if you can decipher my English, sometimes they're pretty good.
Dude,
points.
my favorite word you say homosexuality.
Homosexuality.
Sexuality. I love it. It's my favorite.
You know what?
I'm going to report you to the Vatican Dicastry for homosexuality.
This isn't even a southern thing. This isn't even a southern thing, but you know what my wife hates when I say it because I say it wrong? I know it's nephew, but I've always said nephew.
Nephew?
That's close enough.
Nephew. And she's like,
nephew.
She's like, you know, it's nephew. I'm like, well, now I'm going to say it.
Nuclear. You guys in Texas all say nuclear. Because I have heard Taylor Marshall say it. I've heard George Bush say it.
I don't. I say nuclear.
It's a Texas thing, I think, right?
It might be. I don't know. It might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, listen.
So then the design also is a memento mori type theme as well, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, but anyway, just random thought.
Well, no, I just think it's. I think we all, like we said in the beginning, we all have a very similar.
That's funny.
Dude, I feel like Don is part of the group. I like Don. You're joining traditional transmissions with us, whether you like it or not. He is my favorite person in the world. But we all have a very similar idea of where we kind of want to go. I really do want to bring Connor in. Connor is 23 years old. The kid is great sense of humor. I really think
And he has good content. The ones I've listened to, he has some pretty.
Yeah,
good content.
he's a genuine guy. I really would like to ask him to join us. I think he would be honored if we even asked him. So
I'm cool with that.
I think he just wants more chances to make fun of you, and I understand.
That's a possibility too. But he's a genuinely really good guy, and I like him a lot. But yeah, I think we all generally have the same. We're not taking hard stances on anything. I don't think any of us are going to go for any like real gossipy topics. We're going to try to stay away from clickbait. We really just want to help anybody who's interested have some kind of a community that we can all, have some kind. Like I think that's the coolest thing about our show is that we're having a little bit of a fraternity, or there's girls in there too, so it's not a fraternity, but community.
But you haven't asked me how I identify or what my pronouns are. So how do you know?
That's right. Did you just assume?
That's pretty offensive.
Did you assume Z's gender?
You strike me as a bigot. So.
I mean,
listen.
Our future guest, Matt Walsh, never got the question answered. What is a woman?
No, well, no, his wife answers it. His wife answers it.
Yeah, at the end, while she's making him a sandwich.
She goes, now open my can of pickles.
Did you catch that? She's making him a sandwich.
Yeah. We do talk a lot about Matt Fradd because we all are in agreement that Matt Fradd is the king of Catholic media. And we're hoping he picks us up and puts us on Pints with Aquinas one day in reality. So. No, nothing on that. All right, never mind.
You're the one that's obsessed.
Listen, the guy. Well, the thing is about Matt is he's kind of doing something similar to what we're looking at. Like he doesn't jump all over the craziest topics. He just has conversations with people, and that's kind of other than the trivia, that's kind of what we like to do.
And like I mentioned earlier in our chat group, I also view Matt Fradd, even when he does talk about controversial subjects or even controversial people, he doesn't go at them in an argumentative, like attack state. He has a reasoned conversation with them, even if he may not agree with them. And I think that's sorely lacking in Catholic media and media in general. Really, you can't.
Everything's about the soundbite, right?
Everybody struggles to have a decent conversation with somebody they disagree with.
The sound bites are what go viral. Real conversations don't. So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you're saying we'll never
go viral. That's what she's saying. We're never going to go viral. But I'm okay.
We are,
unless it's at your expense, maybe.
The soundbite is going to be homosexuality thrown out there, and they're going to call us all kinds of names.
Ever.
They're gonna call you and Mark all kinds of names.
We were called fat last week. Fat.
Hey, if the shoe fits, man, that's what I was.
No,
I would have.
You need a bigger one.
I would have been mad if he wasn't right, and I was like, I do need to go form my will. I was watching myself at the beginning when I first started doing Tradman, and then I was watching some recent episodes, and I was like, Mark, buddy, put down the fork, dude. You got to start. Got to get into the routines a little bit, man.
What aggravated me was it wasn't fair. He hasn't seen me from shoulders down.
Being the little chicken legs.
But yeah.
How do you guys feel about your earlier broadcasts, like your first and second show? Do you cringe at it?
Okay, there's one show we did that has only been listened to. But this is back when we were just on the audio platform. It's only been listened to 4 times, and it's one of my favorite shows. And it's about the Vatican II document on relationships with the Jews. I love that. I love that show. It's only been listened to 4 times, and I was like, I'm
gonna check it out. I'll be a 5th view.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
But Anthony,
we'll tweet it out.
Talking about the goal and mission. There was actually early on in our podcast, I think maybe episode 5 or 6, where all this traditional custodians, all this negativity, all this clickbait was happening. And I text Mark and said, dude, let's do a positive episode tonight. Yeah. And he goes, I was about to text you the same thing. And we did a whole episode on joy and where to find joy. And I thought that turned out to be a pretty good episode.
That is a good episode. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to be the alternative for people that don't want to be drowned in negativity. Not that, listen, I think all the guys that are doing that are providing a service, handling things the best they can. I'm not criticizing any of them. My point is there needs to be alternatives for people that are want to stay away from the negativity. So absolutely. I'm hoping we can all make everybody laugh a little by making fun of each other. I mean, that Southern accent is always going to be funny to me. And I think
Let me ask you a question. Do I have one? Because I don't
not as bad as Jason.
I don't have
Jason's got that.
Jason's got
Well,
one.
see,
Jason-
I grew up with my grandparents. You know, we're talking about father figures earlier, and I mean, I have a good relationship with my dad, but he wasn't there for much of my childhood. So I've always wondered, kind of like, well, I was missing that, my father in my life for many times. But then I look back, my grandpa was the father figure. Like I love that man more than anybody. But anyway, I digress. My point being is I grew up with my grandparents. My grandma is from deep East Texas, and if you've ever been down here, they talk slow and
That's
they
behind-
have.
Yeah, you sound like you should have been in the movie
behind her.
Deliverance.
I'm not that.
He's gonna squeal like a pig.
You get out of here.
So I don't mean to like. Well, okay, I do mean to plug my podcast, but my last
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole point of
That's what we're
this.
here
my
for.
last podcast, I talked to somebody about apologetics and being effective and persuasive when you're talking to people who disagree with you.
Yeah.
And so we talk about it specifically in the framework of abortion apologetics, but it's totally applicable to so much of what we've been discussing here. And I saw somebody commented, we need to be better about being able to have disagreements without becoming disagreeable. There we go. We can disagree, but not be disagreeable. And that, I think, is really what we need right now in the church. And I think what we're doing here provides an outlet for that. We can have those discussions. We like each other for the most part. So we can have those disagreements, and to have real conversations about it, about whatever it is that we're talking about. But
Well, that Baylor University professor you talked to on your show about abortion, you mentioned that he was good friends with people that supported abortion, even though they disagreed, they were still getting along.
Yeah, so it was Dr. Francis J. Beckwith, and he's actually friends with people like David Boonin, who is kind of a famous pro-abortion philosopher. So yeah, and I think we need more of that because iron sharpens iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So we need more of that.
Our
So,
Lord,
Angela,
our
what
Lord
is-
never shirked away from arguing with the Pharisees or anything like that, and so we shouldn't either.
Yeah.
I mean,
Angela, what's the
Lord-
name of your podcast?
Integrated with Angela Erickson. That is.
Wait, I have to tell. All right, so last episode we did with Mark and Jason, we called "Avoiding Tradmen in Babylon." Mark, pull up the text. What did you say this one should be called?
I said we're going to call this one "Integrating Tradmen with Babylon while avoiding Anthony," because I was told you weren't going to be on, and then there you are. So.
Dude, that's basically what we want to do. We want to make silly jokes. We want to make everybody laugh. I can't believe nobody in the comments thought my Deliverance line was funny.
I thought
But-
It wasn't.
I thought I thought Rob Fatsinger would have laughed at that one. He's old enough to have seen that one. But so definitely everybody go check out Tradmen. Definitely go check out Angela's podcast. What is it? Integrated. With
Angela
Erickson.
Okay.
I just had to add with Angela Erickson because there's so many different podcasts with integrated in the title. So thank you so much for posting it.
Yeah, it's going to be in the show notes also, and we're going to have a website that has all of it. It's going to be like the ghetto version of like it's just going to be a podcast network that we're going to try and start so that if anybody likes any of the shows, they could just go to one source and they could get any of ours. We're not combining the channels. We're all going to have our own unique things still, but every so often, maybe once every 2 weeks, we're going to see if we can get a crossover show going. Because I thought this is one of our best shows, man. I had a great time talking to you guys.
Me too.
I
That's
thought
fun.
Angela is, I hear till 10 a.m. tomorrow might be the day that Dobbs comes out. Is that what you're hearing?
I thought
Yeah,
Tuesdays
yeah.
and
They sort of
Thursdays are the only days
they
drop.
released.
For the Fridays.
No, they just sort of decide whenever they want. And
Yeah.
so if you look at the Supreme Court website, supremecourt.gov, they will update pretty much every 10 minutes. Every time they release, it'll be about in 10-minute intervals, starting at 9 o'clock. And then by 10 o'clock, they're done releasing their opinions and decisions on stuff. So yeah, by tomorrow, this time, who knows, Roe may have been overturned.
Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us.
If tomorrow is the day,
How crazy would that be?
That'd be such a gift.
Go. What were you gonna say, Rob?
I'm sorry, Rob. Was that what you were going to say?
do we want an after party show if tomorrow's the day?
I think we might have to.
Yeah.
I will be.
My
on
wife
the
won't be
road.
home. I can party all night. You guys want to hang tomorrow night? We can go at it. I'll be home
Yeah.
alone tomorrow.
Let me ask you y'all's
I'll
opinion
be
on this
home
real quick.
Later.
Like, you know how when companies typically fire somebody, they may let them go on a Friday so they can cool off
yeah.
over the weekend.
I'm HR, so I
that's
know how that
exactly
goes.
what could happen.
My question is, do you think a Friday release is good over the weekend, considering people's emotions are going to be a lot more free typically on a weekend? Or
They're going to go
do you
nuts.
think a Monday release would be better?
They're
Or
going to
Tuesday?
go nuts at any day of the week. These people don't have jobs. They're
No,
gonna
but
go
it's
nuts
also
all
a
week.
slow, like the news is slower on a weekend, so it is
Yes,
probably kind of
that's-
smart.
That's
point.
Yeah.
Mac, you did not lose tonight, but somehow Jake still lost. That's all I know.
Yep.
Somehow Jake lost. I don't know how, but he did.
I like Jake from my interaction with him on Twitter.
So yeah, all right. So if you guys are free, if you guys want to do a last minute show, if we get a decision on Roe tomorrow, I'm coming on air. Whoever wants to join
it
me.
may not be the decision that was leaked. Keep that in mind. I mean,
Right.
there's
That's true
always-
also. No matter
always
what,
on the table. But
If we get a decision on Roe, we go on air tomorrow night. So we'll
I should
we'll
be
talk to
available.
each other. I'm sure you guys will keep that WhatsApp message going on every 30 seconds during the day tomorrow. So I'm sure
Voice chats are a little much.
nothing but
Yeah.
voice memos. Yep.
me and Robin texted on the side like, dude, why did I download WhatsApp? Why did I do it?
Well, now
One
you're gonna
of
make me
us,
self-conscious
one
about
of
texting.
us.
All
no, I check it like once an hour. I have the notifications off. You guys do
Don't worry,
your thing.
I'll never text again.
Oh, stop it. So go check out Tradman, check out Integrated with Angela Erickson, and you guys are already checking out Avoiding Babylon, so we're thrilled about that. Guys, please share this video. This was a fun episode. I think this is kind of the future of what we'll be doing.
We're gonna. I'm gonna give it to Travin and Angela so that they can upload it on their
Upload
own
it to their
channel. So when they do, make sure to share those too.
Yeah. And don't forget, hit like, please share. But also don't forget my little sister's Give Send Go. I haven't checked it. I wonder if it got anywhere after last night's episode.
Let me check.
Is there anything I'm forgetting to plug for anybody?
Yeah, it about $300 since last.
About another 300. Yeah, all right. So
What's the goal on it again?
11.5, but it was at it got another $400. It was at 3,900 last night, so we got about another 400 after doing the show last night. So if you guys are feeling generous, please just go to the Give Send Go for my little sister. Rob will put a link in the show notes, I'm hoping.
Yep.
And just $5-10, whatever you guys can afford, that'd be awesome.
Now I didn't get time to make a fancy outro, so we'll just have to go with our old
Just do the-
school.
Or do the
Okay.
intro again so they could say, because whoever missed the intro, that was a cool intro, man. Very cool.
Okay, it does say starting soon, but I think they'll understand.
They'll understand. I love that. I like how it, smashed our thing and went into the other thing. It was pretty cool. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you guys because you guys are the ones that reached out to us, and this was your idea. So
it's all for the greater glory of God.
yeah,
Or-
I
or we
appreciate
should
you
do
guys
it
even
all.
considering us. Angela, you are awesome. I'm so happy we got to link up and meet. Don's gonna get confused when you put the intro on. Don't worry, Don. There's another show coming on right after. Just stick around.
God bless everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.